My name is Linda. I'm a compulsive eater and sugar addict, and hi everybody. And I weigh and measure my food off the gray sheet. I write it down. I commit it to my sponsor. I eat everything I commit. I don't eat anything in between, no matter what. And I've been doing that since December 20th of 2018. And that seems like a long, long time ago. And I never, ever imagined I'd make it past the first couple days. Anyway, I have some pictures to show you, but they alone don't tell you that I truly am a compulsive eater and sugar addict. They do show the consequences of it, but it's really the thinking that that is the crazy part of this disease. That is the disease itself. And in my line of work, well, first of all, there's a study that was done that doctors take less than 5 minutes to reveal that they're doctors. So here we go. I was going to wait till minute 6, but I'll tell you now. So I was a psychiatrist, am still, and I should know better, right? Because I treat addiction. I should know better. And so I had a lot of shame coming in when I couldn't stop myself from walking to my little stash to obtain yet more and more. And I couldn't stop. And all the way talking to myself, don't do this. You are, at that time, I was probably between 275 and 255. I didn't have a scale. So I'm going on what the doctor's office said. By then I had already lost over 50 pounds, just white knuckling it through Overeaters Anonymous. And my body mass index at its highest was a 55. And okay, 55 means you are 16 times more likely to die in the next year than someone whose BMI is normal. So rude awakening when I read that in the study. And it scared me to death. And I'd already had a stroke. I'd already had a mini stroke about 7 years, and then 5 years before coming into Gray Sheet. Out of a lot of shame, I don't tell that to a lot of people because I'm a doctor and we judge each other, and everybody would go, oh my God, you can't trust her brain. So she can't treat patients anymore. But luckily it was a stroke that did not hinder my ability to speak or even to move very much. So I was quite lucky, but I was a walking time bomb. Here come the pictures. So let's see, there we go. So that was me a few years before Gray Sheet. And so I've lost at least 150 pounds. The highest weight that I was measured at was 308, but I think I gained up to about 340 because of the size of clothes I had to utilize at that time. I was going to the big girl store, Catherine's, and wearing a size 30. By the time I came to Gray Sheet, I'd made it down to a 28. And now I fit into a 14, easy. So I've lost half myself and gained so much more. Let's see. The other thing about being a psychiatrist in a 12-step program is I'm also a member of Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, and I could never keep a relationship together. So I felt quite a lot of shame about that too. Anyway, the obsessive thinking, the compulsive behavior, all of that, they call it drug of choice, as if the sugar part could be my drug of choice, but truly it's the drug of no choice because I lost the power of choice over it. And I remember talking to this older couple, 60 plus years of marriage, and I asked them, how did you do it? And they said, well, we didn't die and it didn't occur to us to divorce. So I thought, wow, that's pretty damn simple. But my relationships were while I was in the food. I haven't had a relationship since being in the food. Lots of anger, lots of fear dominated those relationships. I was extremely selfish and immature. And so my relationships were kind of doomed back then, a lot because of the food, because I'd given up other behaviors. I joined Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 24, and that was 34 years ago. It's been a long journey with the 12-step programs, but you can't stop the food with the other 12-step programs. It seems like the singleness of purpose is truly a big deal. And I only mentioned the sex and love addicts part because to me, I see the trio so many times, money, sex, and food, as problems with people. And I just, if you're out there and you feel like that, I don't want you to feel alone in all that. My obsession with food was things that melt. I wanted things that melted because I'm really not a very good overeater. I get full and it gets painful. But if I do things that melt, it just kind of goes around all whatever else is in my stomach and it doesn't hurt, but it sure does pack on the pounds. So I came initially for the thinking. I've heard people say they came for the vanity and stayed for the sanity, but I think it was kind of reversed for me. I was not a big kid. I was a little heavy in high school, a size 12 instead of the 2 and 4 and whatever else my colleagues were in school. So I was never tiny, but I certainly didn't get teased a lot for being overweight. So it was new to me when I hit age 25 and developed rheumatoid arthritis and had to go on medication that is the exact thing your body produces when you're starving. And so I thought I was starving all the time. And I first walked into OA back then because I couldn't stop eating. Even if it was a canned veggie, I had to eat all of it. And so I realized that was crazy behavior and I went to OA, but I didn't identify back then with that. And then my doctor told me that the medicines I was on was the reason I had gained 40 pounds in 2 months. And so from then on, I kind of like just blamed the med, and got bigger and bigger and bigger, and never looked at my behavior, never thought to myself, if I could control the eating, maybe I wouldn't gain the weight, even if the medicine is telling me I'm starving. And it just didn't occur to me to try. I just kept excusing it and being in denial that as long as this part looked okay, I was okay. And so one day I'm doing my job at work and a patient comes in that I've watched her stop drinking alcohol. I've watched her stop pain pills, and she's been shrinking for the last 2 to 3 years. And I had that very night before been unable to stop myself walking to the stash and felt so powerless. So I asked her, I said, I can't stop eating. And that is our little motto thing on our website now, which I think is kind of cool, but I couldn't stop eating. And what is it you're doing? Because I see that it's working for you. And she said, I weigh and measure my food off the gray sheet. I write it down. I commit it to my sponsor. I eat everything I commit. I don't need anything in between, no matter what. And my serenity is in direct proportion to my surrender. And I had this moment of the desperation. Did I mention desperation? And a moment of willingness, like I can do that. And then this something else that I don't know another word except to call it grace. But there's a lot of religious overtones to the word grace. So I had to look the term up. And I mean it in terms of a grace note, like just a slight embellishment that kind of makes the sound.
5 minutes left.
Thank you very much, Finwa. it just kind of makes the sound. So if you were to listen to gosh, there's so many songs that go through my head right now. How about the march, Darth Vader's march, right? Dun, dun, da, dun, dun, da, dun. Anyway, the little quick sound is the grace note. And it would sound completely different without that. And that's what I think of, is it was just this little spark of something that helped all that come together. And I was able to contact GreySheet, have a startup sponsor, and try to figure out my first vegetable to commit, because she said to me, just pick a vegetable, because I was all caught in the, what am I going to want to eat tomorrow? I don't know how I'm going to feel. So what am I going to eat? And so that was the first lesson to me, that maybe I don't have to eat based on what I'm going to feel. And so I did. I committed my first meals, and that was about 2 days after I'd heard about GreySheet, maybe 4 days, but I didn't know how to do GreySheet. I went to my first meeting, gosh, probably a week into things, maybe. And so I probably had about 5 days abstinent when I went to my first meeting and saw the GreySheet, and was lucky enough to get a sponsor that day and get a GreySheet. And it just sort of snowballed from there, and just one day at a time, right? I just committed my food at night, and I did what I committed the next day. And I tried to keep it that simple. I tried to not argue with it. Well, I had lots of arguments with the GreySheet. And that startup sponsor was wonderful and said, well, you can eat that, but you won't be GreySheet abstinent. And I wanted that, whatever that GreySheet abstinent stuff was, because I knew what I was doing was killing me. And so at day 30, off the sugar and stuff, this depression lifted. I didn't even know that I'd had a depression, which, again, shameful for a psychiatrist not to recognize that in herself. But I didn't notice that the thought of, gosh, I wish I'd catch something fatal and die. I didn't notice that was an abnormal thought. And I had it like every day. And so at day 30, it lifted, and I suddenly wanted to live. And I no longer wanted to die of a fatal disease or anything. And I was just astounded that sugar had that much power over me, to make me want to die. And so here I am now, 2 years and 9 months later, 151 pounds, and dating for the first time in like 8 years. So that's a freaking miracle. And above that, my new partner is in GreySheet. So we get each other, which is way cool. Just such a blessing. I feel so very lucky. And I don't.
That's 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Afenwa. So I don't know that I have a lot more after that to say, but this has been a great adventure, and I couldn't have had this without you guys, without GreySheet. I would not be here right now. So thank you.